Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another webinar here on Staffing Hub. We're super excited to have you all here today. But before we dive in, I do have just a couple of housekeeping items for you. First, if you have any questions at all during the presentation, go ahead and drop those into the questions panel, and we will answer them at the end of the broadcast during the Q&A. Second, we will be sending out the recording of the event and the slide deck later on this afternoon, so just be sure to keep an eye out for that in your inbox. So without further ado, I am thrilled to welcome you to Hire Smart, Grow Fast, Mastering I-9 Efficiency with speakers from WorkBright and Allwork. WorkBright is an onboarding software platform that accelerates compliant hiring for high volume and decentralized employers. And Allwork is the employer of record for numerous global beauty brands, managing a workforce of 14,000 in-store selling specialists across the US, Canada, and Puerto Rico. With that, I'll pass it over to Lauren to finish up introductions.
Wonderful. Thank you, Hillary, and thank you everyone for joining us today for this Hire Smart, Grow Fast webinar. I'm excited to introduce today's panel, and we'll go around the horn and allow everyone to share their name, title, and kind of oversight in their role. I'll start. I'm Lauren Fanmiller. I'm Chief Revenue Officer here at WorkBright, and I will be your moderator today for this conversation. And I have the privilege of working with all of our teams to oversee the entire customer experience for our partners here at WorkBright. I'll go ahead and pass it over to you, Chappelle.
Hi, I'm Chappelle Ryan. I'm CEO at WorkBright. I get to pull off the CEO hat today with you guys and really enter in representing staffing clients like yourself. We, of course, have a specific client that we're really excited to have here today. And I want to represent what I've seen having dozens and hundreds of companies through the years implement I-9 as a part of their hiring process. So I'm here both representing all of your I-9 questions because I'm deep in this work and also representing what I've seen from other staffing companies out there in regards to their I-9 processes. I'll pass over to Sharon. I think you're muted there, Sharon.
So sorry.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Sharon Dinger-Tapadre. I am the VP of Operations and Client Success for Allwork. I've been with Allwork since its inception, and we're really excited to represent WorkBright here today.
Wonderful. Janice, you want to bring us home?
Yeah, so hi everyone. My name is Janice. I am the manager of customer service here. So, my team deals directly with the, our employees and our staff with the I-9 process and onboarding and just getting them started with our system after they go through the onboarding process.
Wonderful. Thank you. I'm looking forward to the conversation today. And as a quick overview, this is not going to be a sales demo webinar for WorkBright, but wanted to let you guys know kind of where we sit within the I-9 space and why we are so passionate about this topic. So as Hillary introduced us, we're a digital onboarding product, but our bread and butter is really within our smart I-9 technology, in which we offer a 100% remote process with a one-of-a-kind Section 2 verification that allows folks from anywhere at any time to complete and verify that Section 2. We've processed over 1 million, I think it's 1.5 million Form I-9s now, have been through several audits with 0 fines, and fully indemnify our technology because we're so confident in what we've built and how it helps companies and high-volume hirers like the staffing folks on this call today. So before we dive into the meat and potatoes, just a high-level overview of what we're going to be talking about. We're going to start with really the state of staffing from an industry and compliance perspective. Then we'll dive into navigating the I-9 and some of the challenges that you're likely facing with this work authorization. We'll pivot into some tools and technology to help drive efficiencies around your I-9 product, which Sharon and Janice can share some of their experiences and trials and tribulations through that space. And then we are going to save about 10 minutes at the end for a Q&A. So as Hillary mentioned, as questions come up through this, pop them in the Q&A and we will get to those. And stick around till the very end because we are going to give away a free solo stove to one lucky attendee that will be revealing at the end of today's conversation. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing so that we can just have a conversation with everyone in this group. And we're going to start at kind of the high level staffing industry and compliance topic. Before we go into that, Sharon, would you mind kind of sharing with this audience a little bit more insight into who Allwork is and the clients that you serve?
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to. So Allwork basically is a one-stop payment platform that's currently servicing beauty industry with our online and mobile capabilities that allow their sales management of our clients to both onboard, schedule, budget out their freelance spend. When we say freelance, they are employees of ours. They call it freelancers. Our term definitely is a W-2 employee, but they keep calling them freelancers. But they are paid as W-2. They're able to onboard their talent, manage, put them in store, use our mobile tool to clock in, clock out for their shifts. And mostly these folks are in the retail space, such as Macy's, Nordstrom, Neiman's, any of the major department stores. And they represent the brand. Our client is the brand, and we are the employer of record. So why they come to us, it's quite obvious. We are the employer of record. We also have this online tool that is very specific to the beauty industry. And while it can be used in other remote employee spaces, it really is tailored to our generally speaking, luxury, beauty, and cosmetic lines. And we take all of the burdens of managing the HR and compliance. We're in all 50 states, and we have currently, since our last conversation, we now have 16,000 employees, where we were at 14,000 at the year end.
Wow, incredible growth. So tell us about what some of the metrics or business objectives that you're currently focused on and measuring as a business.
So our current objectives as of now, obviously, are growth and scalability. We're always trying to also adapt to the new challenges of hiring and what that means in our space. Technology is also extremely important to us, so we're keeping our technology in line and compliance. Like I said, those are really our key areas of objectives.
Sure. And so around those, can you talk to us about what challenges might be keeping you up at night?
Wow, that's a loaded question. I am in a very general space in operations, so there's many different facets, but as it pertains to this audience here, I would say compliance, our onboarding solution, that the onboarding solution is able to handle the volume of onboarding that we do during peak times, and that our clients are happy with the turnaround speed. So a lot of times our clients are expecting their talent to be in store working the second that they send us an onboarding request. And while we do our best to make that a reality, we all know in this space that onboarding is a process. So making it a quick process is really a challenge for us in keeping our clients happy.
Sure. And Janice, what are some challenges for you in that same vein as you think about your day-to-day operations that kind of keep you up at night?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of piggybacks off what Sharon was mentioning. So again, just I feel like that client relation piece to it, right? Because to use any platform, you want to make sure it's streamlined. You want to make sure people understand it. You want to make sure that they're happy with it. And I think that's important to us, especially on like the customer like support side, because we're the ones who are going to have to guide people, and, especially through a virtual environment where, typically when somebody experiences having to call into a support line and things like that, where you can't go to someone and say, hey, can you help me, right? You can't go to a store and things like that. So still being able to provide that virtually is really important, especially with dealing with so many people, right? Because you don't want to lose that personal feel and feeling like, okay, this matters and it's making a positive effect on my experience with working. So I think that's like what's the most important piece employees to us. And then obviously just in-house being able to like, you know, file these records and have it so streamlined for us where it can make our processes super quick. And then we can focus on supporting and utilizing our platform as well as much as we can and getting people straight into our platform and experiencing it and dedicating more time to them on that than on something that should be quicker, which could be quicker if it was in person. But that now, you know, a lot of things in our world and in this industry is virtual. So just, you know, getting accustomed to that virtual life and getting people used to technology. The world's becoming very technology driven. And that seems to be, you know, a big change for the world, you know, especially after, you know, COVID times. And I think that, you know, integrating like a platform like you guys has been a plus for that. So yeah.
How important is it to your customers that you have this tech first approach to hiring and onboarding?
Oh, very important. Yeah, especially, you know, where it's kind of in their hands, so they don't have to wait for someone else to kind of give them the green light. They can just do it at their leisure, do it, you know, either at their own time or do it on, you know, different, you know, like technology that whether it's a phone or a computer and things like that, like the variety of options that they have based off the user, because everyone's different and learns differently. So being able to have those different options and being able to do it at their time, it just makes them feel more comfortable. It's less pressured, but it also ignites that excitement to want to get it done. Because if it seems difficult, you're going to say, I don't want to get this done, and it can elongate all the processes across the board. But if it's at you, it's in your hands, and you feel that, you know, that sense of control, like, okay, I got this, you know, it's almost like a motivational thing for them, and it makes them want to get it done. So it's super important for them.
Yeah. And if I can interrupt and add to that, client facing, because I am involved with mostly our clients, while Janice is involved in the talent side, in the past, the introduction of having that verification of the part section 2, where it doesn't have to be a member of our client's team, or is a huge game changer for us, especially. So client facing, it could be their mother, their sister, their brother, or anyone else verifying that section 2, which was a huge game changer when it came to our client experience, because they no longer have to do anything.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, we hear that across the board from staffing companies. Is obviously that candidate experience is such a big piece of that funnel. I'm curious, the less sexy part of the conversation is around compliance. And Sharon, when you think about compliance, what is Allworks' approach to that? And are there any areas of concern?
Yeah, so Allwork, our approach is extremely proactive, or we're trying. Every company, let's say, every company wants to say that they're being proactive when it's relating to compliance, and especially in specific states, California, New York, or the really the tougher states when it has to do with compliance. It's extremely important to us at Allwork. We have put in layers of compliance into our scheduling tool, relating to specific break laws and whatnot. Technology is extremely important to us, and that is why it made only sense to go with WorkBright, because we are building into our own platform all of these ways and safeguards to make our scheduling tool compliant, our onboarding tool compliant. So it really was a no-brainer as far as going to your solution for us. As it stands in every other aspect, we have multiple labor law firms that look over our software and our options, and to make sure that we're making the correct decisions. We work with Littler right now, so we have, you know, looked over even this solution prior to us engaging with WorkBright, and in everything has checked out.
Right. And Chappelle, I want to kick this over to you. Chappelle is our resident I-9 expert, knows more about I-9 compliance than I think anyone probably would dream to. So since you are so familiar with the legal side, can you give us a quick rundown of kind of the climate rather of compliance and enforcement as it stands today?
Yeah, absolutely. You guys have hit on so many key points already that this is typically why customers are coming to us. It's like a compliance need first. We have to cross that bar, and then speed and throughput very quickly after that, because that's what clients want, right? Those end customers are like, okay, but how fast can this person start the shift? And so reducing that time to under 15 minutes to complete all paperwork is really what we focus on. But compliance comes first for us. And we work with two of the country's leading attorneys in this to check over everything that we do to make sure that it would pass the scrutiny of any audit that came in. So things that I'm hearing that are keeping staffing companies up at night. Fraudulent documents has been a big topic this past year. There has been, this is a delicate balance for employers between wanting to accept visually, facially recognizable documents as authentic and not asking for additional documentation, which could be viewed as discrimination. This is a really delicate balance that employers are facing right now, is fraudulent documents and when to let things pass through and when not to. Of course, if you're an E-Verify customer, that makes things a little easier, and our platform can manage all of those E-Verify workflows. TPS statuses have been a total pain in the butt for a lot of our staffing companies, right? If you go to the USCIS website and look for their most recent releases, it's like 9 out of 10 of them are, we've extended Syria for an additional 90 days. We're now accepting Ukrainian employees for this amount of time. And how do employers manage all of these temporary protected statuses when you're seeing documents that don't have expiration dates on it? And is this valid or not? So helping with unique workflows around that and not having it delay that speed and throughput, which is ultimately what your clients are looking at, and assuming that you have compliance covered. Other things that I'm seeing, fines increased this year. So I know we had one of these as a pre-question from a customer. Fines have increased across the board. In addition, budgets have increased. Where I'm seeing the largest fines being applied, number one is misclassification of workers. So all work, you guys are leading on this and bringing them in as W-2s, but I know in Colorado, there was $1 million applied to 2 staffing firms because they were classifying them as temporary workers, not W-2s, and had to convert all those over. So that's number one, is misclassification. Number 2, though, I'm seeing the largest fines associated with coming down from IER in discrimination. Are you guiding the employee, telling them that they should be presenting certain documents, or asking for additional validation that you should not be, and thus could be appearing to discriminate against workers? So in general, I like to say with the compliance side of things, the auditors that come in are people, and yes, they have goals and budgets, but if you are trying to do the right thing, there's not patterns of manipulation, then they're going to largely view your auditing of your files more favorably than they would if it's like, we didn't have a process to begin with, or we knew that there was this problem and we didn't do anything to correct it. And we're seeing that with the increase in fines as associated with employing undocumented workers and some of the other changes that they've made this year. But generally, companies that are partnering and looking at this compliance on an ongoing basis, doing audits, they're coming out okay in their audits. Let me see, anything else in here? Oh, Prop 22, if we have any California customers, that's a big one that's coming down, again, in this kind of classification of workers, should they be temporary or not? So these are the things that I'm hearing from staffing companies as like, hey, we need to be able to pivot quickly if something changes in legislation. And partnering with a company like WorkBright, we take on that responsibility of making sure that we're passing that bar of compliance and then communicating it out to customers.
Great, thank you. So obviously a lot going on there, a lot to keep up with from a compliance perspective. That's a heavy lift to put on an HR team. Going back to, Sharon, you talked about compliance across the board. While we're on the specific topic of I-9 and work authorization, I want to go a little bit deeper into this, and recognizing that a lot of people here may be doing this process very differently. There's a lot of different methods to completing the Form I-9. So Janice, would love to direct this question to you to tell us a little bit about your I-9 and work authorization process before WorkBright and what that looked like for all work.
Yeah, so before it was very manual. So it was, through our, our onboarding platform. So it was like they would submit it. And then at that point, it was in our hands to, verify the documents. And like you mentioned, earlier, where it wasn't like the system had too many options to help us really figure out remotely, how legit are these things, right? So it was a lot of manual work behind it and having to have extra conversations and emails and requesting additional documents to verify those things. And then from there, having to wait for the platform a little longer than what you guys currently offer to process those things, and then, continue from there with the full onboarding experience. And then even just the documentation, compiling and filing was a lot more work, where now, with WorkBright, it's a click of a button, and it's all there for me, and I can put exactly where I needed to go in a matter of seconds. So it just took, time-wise, a lot longer for us than it does now. And with WorkBright, I think it cut our time in half, if not a little bit more than that, with simply just getting us through the I-9 and the E-Verify process. It was a lot for us, especially as we continued to grow. It just became something that was not realistically something that you can manually continue to manage that way. So yeah, WorkBright it took away that burden for us very, very quickly.
Great. In thinking about, the fact that you're remotely hiring all of these folks, how were you actually verifying the Section 2 for remote employees? What was that specific part of the
So
process?
we would have to quite literally just get their information, and then we would have to through our onboarding platform, they did have a sub platform within it that would kind of bring it to E-Verify and kind of do what you guys do, but it would just take so much longer, and statuses weren't so clear, and sometimes we would have to reach out to E-Verify more ourselves and try to keep things pushing, where I feel like with you guys, it's all done within your platform. It's out of our hands. We know once the person submits what they need to, we're just waiting for kind of the green light. And there may be some things list A and things like that, where we have to check it off. But it's all through your platform. Your platform provides us, the documents that we need. If they're in a TNT employee, right, where they didn't get cleared, it's beautifully written to explain to them, hey, here are your next steps. Again, giving that employee the feel of, hey, even if it's not going, it's even if you're not cleared right now, here's all the steps you need. Here's all the links that you need. And it's so digestible for our people. And that's what they love about it. That it's I know that no matter where I go, with my status, I'm going to be guided in the right direction. And it's all through the platform now.
Great. I love to hear that. And Sharon, I would love to understand too, from a business perspective, what was that tipping point for your organization where you said, okay, we need to take a hard look at this and find a new process?
Yeah, so that was through pain. So I'm going to tell you that it wasn't pretty. It wasn't a pretty process that led us to WorkBright. It wasn't a pretty process because, like Janice mentioned, prior to us engaging with one of our first enterprise clients who brought to us more than 2,600 employees, that client brought to us 2,600 employees where we were coming from a total employee base. I think at that point we were probably around 4,000 employees. So our clients that were coming to us were maybe max 500 employees, where at the time our last process was okay, we could do it. Maybe it wasn't optimal, it wasn't best, but it was getting done. And then when we had engaged with our first enterprise client, bringing us 2,600 employees who wanted them onboarded basically very quickly, with our current process, that couldn't be done. And so it was not a good experience. That onboarding and the implementation of that for that client led us to the decision that we need to make process improvement, and we need to make it now. And it was a huge pressure point for us where it just bubbled over. And that's what led us to your solution. And to be quite frank and honest with you, at that moment, it was a painful time for us, because while it was exciting, we were growing, we were realizing how majorly deficient our current process was, and how extremely outdated. And to be honest, considering we're in the tech space, it was slightly a little bit wow, why are we doing it this way? We're in the tech space. We're supposed to be an authority in this. So I had to enlist the help, because at that point we were so inundated with getting this client up to speed. And given my position within the company, I was mostly focused on keeping our client happy. And I had to keep forcing and going towards that cause. that I had our HR and marketing team work together to find the solution WorkBright, and then they presented it to me. And when I saw it for the first time, I was like, I probably thought what everybody here thought, or anyone who's on this is like, well, this seems too good to be true, because like this is just really, really easy. You see that video, oh yeah, this person can verify you, and I said, okay, it's way better. I tried it out, I tested it, we ran it through compliance, and I said, how quickly can we get this started? We rolled it out, and it's been great.
I love that. So hearing it, we were talking before this, is most companies make changes. There is a tipping point driven by pain. And I'm very happy to hear that we were able to help you overcome that to support that business expansion. If you think about bringing on the size of customer that you did with WorkBright before WorkBright, what would the implication have been? Would it have just been twice as slow? What sort of business impact?
So to put it into perspective, we had our old solution with our first enterprise client with only 2,500 employees. When I say only now, because we just also had our second round of another enterprise customer who brought 9,000 employees. So we'll go to there momentarily. 2,500 employees took us almost 4 months to onboard. And we were not expecting that. Like, we really were not prepared for how long that was going to take, because it was just a forms overload. We couldn't hire fast enough support agents to help us go through the paperwork. And there was just a cluster of documents sitting in our queue. And it completely also potentially impacted our business with other clients, because while we're trying to get past this, other things were falling through the cracks. So it was a tough experience. So let's fast forward. We implemented WorkBright. We felt that our process improved. I mean, scaled us back several days of onboarding time. And now fast forward 1 year later in 2023. So mind you, we've been with WorkBright since 2022, when we put it in place. 2023, we've had already some experience using the platform. We engaged with our second enterprise customer who brought us 9,000 employees to onboard all at once. While I still had the PTSD of my prior experience of 2,600 when I was told 9,000, when we signed that contract, I had that little bit of oh boy, here we go again. Hold on, hold on. But we were excited, but I knew we were actually in a very different place, because that timeline shrinks. We onboarded, I want to say, Jen, 9,000 employees within like a month's time.
Oh yeah.
There's 4 months of 2,600 people. So that speaks volumes. And if that doesn't, that is proof. This is like for real. Like, that is a use case.
That's incredible. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Chappelle, I'm going to switch over to you, because you're kind of representing some of the other staffing companies that WorkBright works with. What other challenges are you hearing from those customers?
Yeah. So first off, I just kudos to you guys for that mind shift and being like, oh, we're actually a tech company too, right? I think this is a big gap for a lot of, especially staffing companies that have been recruiting and staffing companies for so long. And now you're seeing yourselves as tech companies as well. So that recognition and pivot I'm seeing a lot in the staffing industry. And there's been a lot of change in I-9 over the last year, right? Reconciliation. We're still getting in customers that haven't brought their COVID-19 virtually inspected I-9s into compliance. And we're hearing should we be using alternative procedure? Should we not? I think I saw this on one of the pre-questions as well. So alternative procedure is the new thing that was released starting in August of last year, where you can use a version of virtual review to complete Section 2 authorization. Now, for those of you that are sitting here, just in case this is a question, just because you virtually reviewed before does not mean that you're in compliance with those now that virtual review, there's a version of that available to you. You still need to reconcile those I-9s. you may or may not be able to use alternative procedure. I'm not going to go too deep on this because I think that this audience is pretty 401 I-9. But I'll say alternative procedure, not really a solve for staffing companies for the exact reasons that Sharon and Janice have shared here. It still puts that onus of Section 2 work authorization review onto your internal teams. So I don't want to speak, I'm not doing a sales pitch here, but I also don't want to speak so vaguely that people are like, what are they even talking about? The way that WorkBright does it is through a employee selected authorized representative. You can select as the employer of record, can it be a person above 18? Can it be a family member? You can make some of those selections, but then the employee designates a person in their home. Like my husband is working in another room here because we're also a virtual company. And I could go to him, enter his cell phone number. It would send him a text message explaining to him his responsibility in Section 2 authorization, a little video, some written instructions saying, here's what you need to do. He then reviews my work authorization documents and signs under penalty of perjury that he's crossed the barrier for that review. So that process takes it out of the hands of the all-work team, right? That's what they're talking about when they say like alternative procedure. We are seeing some adoption in that in employers that hire under 100 employees per year because they have the bandwidth to complete that virtual inspection. But really, if you're over that volume, it's not a great option for you. And so we're still dealing with a lot of that. There was also huge changes to I-9 this last year, supplement A, supplement B. Am I supposed to use that with my historical I-9s, or should I be using what was previously Section 3, but now is supplement B? So there's a lot of concern and questions around what's happening with I-9 and where they're going. E-Verify Next Gen has just been announced as something that will come in. That's supposed to be released this spring. We'll see. I think it could be, it's definitely the USCIS's move to push employers towards E-Verify, and that they want to use E-Verify Next Gen. We'll be incorporating them into the platform when it comes. I don't know how adopted it's going to be. It puts a lot of that onus of E-Verify verification into the employee's hands. And you guys know how hard it is to get employees to complete even basic stuff, let alone go do a process outside of their employer. So we'll be keeping an eye on that, but there's just a ton of change in legislation happening around this, monitoring things. So when we think about other staffing companies, including Allwork, that are coming to us, it's very similar challenges to what we've heard here. Ability to take action in bulk when you're dealing with 9,000 employees that need to happen all at one time. So those are the challenges: is changing legislation. How do I do this in bulk? What does it all mean for my specific use case?
Great, thank you. Yeah, I mean, there's no shortage of challenges around the work authorization piece. So we're going to kind of shift into the HR technology and how we can use technology to drive these efficiencies for the organization. I think Sharon and Janice have already been very kind in speaking about their experience with WorkBright. But Chappelle, while you have the mic, I'd love to get your perspective on what goes into the process of designing HR tech. What's at the front of your mind as you design this product?
So we kind of have 4 guiding principles that we work off of here, and they are in order. So number 1 is compliance, right? Like I said, we work with 2 of the country's leading attorneys. They check over everything before we release it. Anytime that one of our customers has an audit, I'm even in that with them a lot of times because I want to hear what the auditor is saying, making sure that we're having product adjustments as needed. So compliance is the number 1 bar. A very close second to that is security. So this is a rising issue as staffing companies become more tech companies. Security is huge. I'll say the thing that we see more, like phishing scams are getting so sophisticated now. Making sure that we're passing that bar. We have our SOC 2 certification, and that we're protecting our clients' data as closely as we can as the technology provider, and then also educating them on what they need to be doing, right? When we see a breach happen, there's been like 2 in the past year that were an administrator got a phishing email and accidentally provisioned someone into their platform that shouldn't have been in there as an admin because they had them reset a password or something. So we take compliance and security very close, 1 and 2. Then there's a little bit of a gap because those are so important, and then speed and throughput, right? So I want to be on the right side of the compliance bar, passing that with flying colors. And then I want to make decisions on speed and throughput to make sure that I'm moving people through as quickly as we can through that process. So that's the way that we think about the development of our product when we think about I-9 is pass compliance, pass security, and then get them through as fast as we can. And when I say throughput, I think in staffing terms, that's more conversion rates, the number of candidates that enter the funnel to the number that can actually start and schedule by removing those obstacles. So we do a lot of things like OCR technology when someone uploads a passport. the number one issue that we saw before we put in this OCR technology was miskeying information or entering the wrong issuing authority. So we handle all of that by bringing that OCR technology and just like reducing all of those errors that employees are inevitably going to put through to the best of our ability so that we can get them through the process quickly and compliantly.
Great, thank you. It's helpful to kind of look under the hood and know how these technology providers are thinking about developing their product. Turning this back to Allwork, Sharon, you shared a little bit earlier in terms of how you found WorkBright, but would love to understand kind of your process once you identified the issue to going and looking for a product, and what was the criteria that was most important to you in finding a partner for this?
Well, the criteria was really surrounding the technology and the ability for us to have that Section 2 completed remotely, and also that your solution could organize the data as well as all of the forms of ID, keep it in one space where it was very organized and easy and efficient for our support staff to use. So that was extremely important. Another criteria aspect was the possible integration with you and also our payroll provider, which you guys are and continue to be a good partner in that space, where we are taking I know we're speaking about the I-9 capabilities right now. Long term, we were also looking into utilizing your onboarding tool in its entirety. So the fact that both the I-9 capabilities as well as the onboarding platform together solution could be integrated with our homegrown system, which also is passed through to our payroll provider. It really took a lot of the burden away from our support staff. So that process improvement probably saved us several support agents' time, which also saves money. So let's be honest, less support hands that you need saves the company money. So there's a lot of variables that led us here, and the criteria was surrounding first the technology, and second that you were able to scale with us and integrate, and that it's compliant and easy.
Great, thank you. And just on that kind of easy button, thinking about speed and throughput, and Chappelle to that being a North Star in product development as well. What would you say makes companies most successful using WorkBright to facilitate efficiencies there?
Yeah, our customers that are getting to that sub 15, sub 10-minute onboarding process utilize our embedded functionality. So that would be like if you have an app that you're using for your ATS, either homegrown or through another solution provider, when they're going straight from that ATS right into paperwork. So we're seeing this shift. Like, I know, Janice, you're in charge of the onboarding process, but onboarding is so closely tied to ATS at this point, right? Like, it is not anymore this thing that people come in on the first day of work to do. It is a means to secure the worker and make sure that they're going to show up for their first shift. So when, we have open APIs, and to your point, Sharon, we play really nicely with other people in the HR tech stack. That's one of our key pillars as well, because it goes to that speed and throughput. When they move straight from, okay, I've applied and I have somebody on my back end has accepted the submission and I'm moving into onboarding, removing the barrier and moving them straight into that paperwork process, either through an API or our most successful clients in an embedded mode where it just looks like it's one workflow. They don't even know who WorkBright is. It's just happening all within their workflow, is how we're seeing the fastest speed and throughput for candidates. And Janice, I'm curious about that. I'm sorry, Lauren, but like, do you think of yourself like more with that applicant tracking and like a means to, like, how do you think about that world?
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree that, I feel like I liked what you said about how, like, before, you would go in, you would get that paper and you'd be like, okay, am I going to do this? Like, you're looking at it. Am I going to come back? Am I going to give it in? Where now it just feels like, okay, I got this job. And again, it just feels like part of your job. And again, it makes it feel motivational. It makes you feel confident, wanting to come to work. It just feels like part of your process and not like a burden, or not like something that's going to be a deal breaker. It just feels like it's part of your flow. So yeah, I agree.
So we've talked about leveraging a technology provider like Workbright or others and the impact that that's driven. But I also know change management can be an intimidating prospect. And Sharon, you mentioned earlier that when you made this decision, you kind of needed something overnight. There was an immediate, urgent need around this. So Janice, would love from your seat to understand what that kind of implementation rollout process looked like and the change management that required on your end.
Yeah, so for us, we definitely did it overnight. Like once we got the green light that, you guys had everything that we were looking for and that we can hope for, it was very overnight for us. We immediately kind of pivoted our process and we just kind of went for it and it worked. We immediately changed like our welcome emails, which is again has all of the steps that we provide the employee on our side with what they have to do, which now includes, hey, here's your Workbright experience, here's what you should expect from it. And you guys also did help us create a very simplified, detailed breakdown of what that would be, including links and all that good stuff. We sent that out to them and we saw literally 180 and positive feedback with that experience as soon as we launched it, or even some clients who had already gone through and said, hey, I didn't get to go through that. Is that something that like I would be able to like look into in the future? We're like, yeah, if you ever come back, you get rehired and things like that. Though this is going to be our new process. And we just saw positive feedback across the board. And one of the things that we kept hearing, obviously in different words and different ways, but general consensus was this is simple, this is easy, and this is pain-free. And that's kind of what we're all about here at Allwork, is making things a pain-free experience. So being able to add you guys and add to that experience for us and add to, that's like a go-to, right? So being able to give that to our clients, right, and stick to our word is what was important to us. And they had confidence in us as well. So, from being able to just add that initial piece, getting them to experience that as a new client, they were like, okay, this is great. Like, anywhere I've gone, I've never had this experience really at any job from what we were told, like you guys mentioned. In person, it was all, manual, physical papers and all that stuff. Where now it's the click of a button. And again, like, on the show, being able to, send that person a code at your leisure, whether it's a partner or, a family member or even a trusted friend. That's also opened up a world from where they feel happy because they feel like, okay, I don't have to show a stranger my information. I can do it with somebody that I feel confident in, right? So again, brings back that confidence within our platform, within our processes, and it builds a good relationship with us and our clients. And then from there, just even with our current, like I said, our current employees who maybe have taken a break and come back, or they've gotten rehired with us and they actually got to experience our old process and our new one, and or some people who may not be so tech savvy and had to, experienced this change, we saw feedback that was just, they were just happy. They were like, I'm not tech savvy and I didn't have to ask, my son to help me today or my daughter to help me. And I got to do it by myself. And I felt really cool to say, hey, I got this done. I just had to send them a text and they were so shocked that I was able to do that. So it was just a positive experience for them with just a simple addition of a click of a link. But yeah, we did that overnight and it went up from there.
Amazing. Yeah, you don't often hear people asking to redo their I-9 process because it's so simple. So I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And Sharon, from your seat, and I think you've shared some of this throughout the conversation as well, but what are the big business impacts that you have seen driven through this shift for your organization?
The business impact is that we are now confident that we are well equipped to onboard any large enterprise client. I wouldn't be fearful like in the past where I would be excited about, obviously I'm still excited. I'm always excited to have a new large enterprise client. Some of it would give me a twinge of a little bit of nervousness. I don't have any nervousness in the fact that we can facilitate a pretty quick turnaround on onboarding a very large audience very quickly and efficiently. And in going back to your question to Janice, as far as, I mean, I knew you shared the impact on it, talent facing, meaning the people who are experiencing the actual I-9 process, as far as how it has impacted our support agents and their work that they do. In the past, it was extremely time-consuming, tedious process, and pivoting over from that old process to the new process during implementation, while we did all the back end work here, when I say we, the operations team and our product team worked on getting it all set up. Once it was set up, change management to our support staff in a new way of working was a welcome embrace, because in the past the support agent was typing everything in. Now that takes all of that burden away, and the employee who they're sending the file over to fills out all their own information, so nothing has to be initiated on our end. The process starts immediately.
That's great. As we're sitting here today in the company of a bunch of other staffing companies, if anyone else is in the position that you were in before and having struggles with their I-9 and capacity issues, what would you tell them if they're at that stage in their journey?
If they were struggling with I-9s with their current process, definitely look to get a demo on with you with WorkBright, and to see if they can help you in the same space that they helped us, because this is a real use case, and it was a significant change for us that enabled us to really have these conversations with these larger clients without feeling like we couldn't handle it.
Wonderful.
And
Thank you,
just
guys.
to add to that
Oh,
a
go
little
ahead.
bit, like, you know, I think from our side, like, you know, my team, like what we noticed too was you guys are very quick to adapt, which I know Chappelle had mentioned. And I think that's really important to highlight, because again, as things change, whether it's, you know, compliance wise, whether it's in-house with your individual, you know, companies and things like that, you guys have done an amazing job with, you know, fulfilling our needs and our client needs as well. And again, that maintains those relationships, that continues to help us grow. So I think that's super important to highlight as well. Like your ability to adapt is great. So thank you.
So that is going to wrap our kind of panel discussion part of today's conversation. I'm going to get my deck back up. Can everyone see this? Okay, great. So we're going to put a quick poll up. And this is just if you are interested, obviously zero pressure, but if there's interest in your organization to see a quote, see a demo, talk to some of our reps who are very skilled in compliance questions as well. I know some of those are coming through, so if we don't have a chance to get to those, let us know if you'd like more information, and we'll make sure someone follows up with you. Super grateful for you spending this time with us, and we wanted to extend kind of a token of gratitude in the form of a discount if this is something that you feel like could benefit your organization. So as a participant of this webinar, when you talk with one of our reps, let them know that you joined for this, and we'll make sure that you do receive that implementation discount for joining us today. All the webinar recordings and slides will be sent via email to follow up with what Hillary said. Here's our website if you want to find out more. And the moment that we've all been waiting for, we'll drum roll on our Solo Stove recipient before we get to Q&A, is Nicole K. So Nicole will be following up with you to make sure that you get that that Solo Stove, and thank you for joining us today. It's a fun little token of our appreciation. And now we are going to move into our Q&A portion. So if you haven't already, please put those into the Q&A questions, and I will hand this back over to Hillary.
All right, thank you so much, Lauren. The first question that we have here is, we are hearing a lot about scams and fraud targeting HR teams. Are you aware of this, and how does WorkBright protect against it?
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think I kind of got at this one with the phishing scams that we're seeing, right? Like HR is a prime target for phishing right now, because you house all of the PII that people want to go take and do other information. So, you know, some of the things that our platform does, I recommend multi-factor authentication. Definitely for all employees, we actually implement with that standard unless a customer asks us to turn it off. And then we have a very specific question with them about why they would want administrators to not have two-factor authentication. That is your biggest vulnerability. We also recommend it though for employees. Like an interesting one that came through was a employees' email got hacked. They emailed, it wasn't all work, so I'm going to use a fake company name here, like, HR@staffingcompany.com, and said, can you reset my password in Workbright? They went in and updated the direct deposit information that employee had listed in our company, that the hacker did. And then, so the next time that payroll got run, it would get sent to new direct deposit information. So the biggest vulnerability are these phishing scams. And I hear you, for whoever submitted that like this is happening. And so I think education and awareness, and get multi-factor authentication put on all of your stuff for your employees as well when it comes to PII, and work with a partner that is SOC 2 certified. If you're not familiar with that, it's kind of the gold standard in software, as far as saying like we are secure and we're doing everything we can to keep employee data secure as well. I don't know, Sharon and Janice, have you guys seen a lot of phishing scams coming through on behalf of your clients?
Actually, this is a pretty big topic as well. A lot of phishing scams, especially in our space where we have talent or some talent write in, please change my direct deposit, things like that, without verifying accounts. It could be fraudulent emails, and just there's a lot of phishing scams that come through to our support. We have put in some processes to identify those in our own world, but yeah, it happens.
All right, great. Another question for you all. My workforce isn't very tech savvy. Will Workbright hurt our I-9 completion rate?
Ooh, I can answer.
No.
I can answer that because, and actually Janice can also probably answer this better than me. Our talent pool consists of in-store selling specialists who are largely, selling. They are not using technology often, or maybe some not at all, and they find it to be an easy process. Do you concur, Jen?
Yeah, and not just even, or I even a lot I have how to and things like that, where they just really don't use technology. It's a foreign thing to many people, and I'm telling you, this process for them, it was a smooth slate for them. It didn't make them feel overwhelmed. The look of it, the wording of it, the descriptions, the flow, any videos you guys offer, it made them feel like I can do this. And I think that's really important, again, especially for us, but with it being remote, where we can't be there with them and say, hey, you got this, and walk them through it. This is perfect for that type of, group of people, for sure.
So prior to us making this decision to Workbright, this was initially our thought too. We had the exact same question. So what we did before we actually went live with Workbright is that we selected several of our own employees who we felt were maybe challenged with technology. We specifically focused on them to see what their experience was like with giving them zero guidance on how to do it. So it was, we also did it for relatives, and who we chose relatives that we thought would struggle with the verification piece too. It was fine. So.
Yeah. And I'll tailor onto this, I love what you guys are saying, and that like, it's not going to be a barrier. They're going to figure it out, because it is in that speed and throughput that I was talking about. UI UX is something that we focus on a lot to make sure that we're lowering those barriers. If though, we do have backup methods for everything that we do for those that might come into work on the first day and have not completed it. Hopefully that doesn't happen, and they've done it long before, but we have things like kiosk mode, where you as an administrator could use like a tablet or your own mobile phone to make it so that the employee could complete right there with you. Also, if someone's not comfortable sharing their location for the authorized representative workflow, we have a backup method where they can say like, give me a QR code, and then they can scan from there. So there's some backup redundancies built in for those that need a little additional support into the platform as well.
Okay, great. Another question for you here. If we're currently using authorized reps within our current system, what separates Workbright from that?
I'll start on this one because this is how we built the product. So we actually have a patent pending around the way that we handle authorized representatives. What some competitors in the industry that are doing I-9 that use authorized representatives is they use like a network of individuals that they have out there that are required to complete that section 2. And where that kind of falls off is that you still have to schedule with one of those people. So we had a customer that came to us that did a lot of employing in a remote area of Montana for some oil rigging. And the closest authorized representative in a network was 3 hours away. So even if that person is close, let's say they're 15 minutes away, you're still requiring the employee to find and schedule with that individual, and requiring them to have transportation, which can be a barrier for some of these. That's why they're looking for employment, right? That can be a big barrier. So if the current provider that you're using is using one of those authorized representative networks, this is a way that they can do it with selecting someone that is within their area. And then we use that geofence location technology to make sure they're within 15 feet of each other. So that's the other thing that differentiates what the patent around is. The way that we document and audit what's happening with those authorized representatives is unique to WorkBright. So we record the 2 IP addresses of the 2 individuals that are currently together for the purpose of completing work authorization. We educate the authorized representative, we geofence them within 15 feet, and all of that information goes onto your audit trail. So if an auditor ever came in and said, when did this happen, and how do we know that it was 2 people and who were they? That's all put onto the audit trail of your I-9 automatically.
All right, great. Another question for you here is, my organization doesn't think we need to do I-9 reconciliation. Is this still important?
Okay, so yes, the USCIS, I think where we got confused is USCIS came out and basically said, hey, it's supposed to be everything was done by September 30th. If you're struggling with this, oh no, it was August 30th of 2023. If you're struggling with this, we're going to be lenient. Just make sure you're still making progress towards it. And I think that for some people, this is incredibly burdensome. Like, if you didn't get those reconciled, you were supposed to let people go. And so I think that the risk that some companies made was like, well, if we have to let these people go, and then what's our risk of getting audited? Make progress on it. It doesn't have to be what they have loosened up is kind of those timeframes around doing it, but you should have documented. I always recommend when you make changes to your I-9 process or you're going through a reconciliation process that you present an internal memo to your employees, especially to your internal teams, that would say like, here's the process that we're going through. And as long as you have that done and you're making progress towards it, you're going to be okay. But if an auditor comes in and you've just chosen to not do it, there's going to be some pretty hefty fines associated with that when they're starting to get into there.
All right, thank you. Another one here. My IT team is afraid of putting PII into electronic systems. How does WorkBright protect sensitive data?
Yeah, this is back to that SOC 2 that I was talking about. You do have to be, especially when we're talking about APIs. So I know like Allwork has done a great job of making their systems talk to each other. You want to make sure you have kind of an internal security team that checks over whatever vendor you're using and make sure that they're doing what they need to do. WorkBright, we kind of gamify this within our platform just to make sure that it's institutionalized within the organization. We run like fake critical incident simulations every year, where we actually hire actors to like inject stuff into the code and try and hack the platform. You want to make sure that the vendors you're working with are doing similar exercises on a regular basis, and that they know how to respond. I mean, there's another big player in the I-9 space that has had big security breaches on their platform, and it has cost them millions, and it has cost their customers millions in offering credit monitoring services to employees. So this is a big deal, and the fact that your IT team is concerned about it is a good thing. Lean into that, test your vendors, and then make sure as you're sending information to and from platforms that every place that's touching this PII is also taking it with the same severity that you would for your own employees. Sharon, Janice, how big of an initiative is this at Allwork and security, and how do you guys think about that?
Yeah, so our security is actually largely ran by our product team alongside with the tech team. While I'm involved with the conversations in it, it is quite complex, like you're stating, and yes, they are continuously auditing the security and also working within the integrations to making sure that there is no possible gateway for a breach. And I can't really speak to the exact logistics of it because it's just not in my space.
But you got a team dedicated to it, which is step number
yes, we do. Yeah, we have an entire team. It's a tech team who is techie in nature, where they do all of these drills, simulations, everything that you said. I know is happening, but I know I'm not really privy to how it's done.
Fair.
All right, I've got one more here that we can try and squeeze in, and that is, how do I reset, resend, or create the WorkBright candidate profile for those that say they never received the welcome email?
So I saw this one come in beforehand. This is from a current customer, so welcome on to you guys. So really simple process, and I think it depends how your admins are set up. So we have robust admin permission policies to where if you're allowed in, then you could see that candidate profile. You would see a little green or red inbox that says, yes, they did receive it. And if you wanted to resend that information because the person's saying they never received it, you can easily just resend that notification from right in the platform. So if you're not seeing that, it's because you don't have a permission policy to be able to view that. And that's just a business decision on the back end. But we do make it really easy for people to get into the system via API or by adding, and then to resend those welcome notifications as well.
Great, thank you so much. All right, well, that puts us at time, and I just want to say thank you all so much, attendees, for joining us today. And a big thank you to Sharon, Janice, Chappelle, and Lauren for the excellent presentation. Lots of great information that you shared today. Everyone, keep an eye on your inbox for the recording of the event later on today, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.